Unfortunately, most of the Muslim world, and including our own Central Asian brothers, countries like Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, voted against this. And this is because, they've been captivated by the Chinese government through the Belt and Road Initiative. The Chinese government has pumped billions, tens of billions of dollars into these countries and effectively bought their silence. But at the same time, these countries are failing to realize that by remaining silent on the ongoing genocide and buying into China's lies, buying into China's so-called development and its loans, they are ultimately selling their own sovereignty and bringing themselves more and more closer to becoming de facto vassals of the Chinese state.
Talking about sovereignty, something that Beijing likes to repeat about East Turkestan is that it was part of ancient China. Is this true?
Absolutely not. East Turkestan historically has been an independent nation. We have a history of over 6,000 years and a history of over 3,000 years of statehood dating back to the ancient Indo-European and Tocharian city-states that existed in East Turkestan. It wasn't until 1876 when the Manchu Qing dynasty conquered East Turkestan, and in 1884, they incorporated East Turkestan as Xinjiang, meaning the new territory or the colony in the Chinese language. Uh, this in itself, if you look at historical Chinese records from the Han Dynasty, from the Tang Dynasty, and even up till the Ming Dynasty and even to the Qing Dynasty, they never recorded East Turkestan as being a part of China.
And it's similar in a way to what Beijing says about Taiwan. They say that Taiwan was always part of China, but really it was only made an official province for 10 years from 1885, and then it became a colony of Japan, and it's been self-ruling for more than 70 years. Can you tell us a bit about the independence movement in East Turkestan from, in the 1900s?
Yes. So after the Manchu Qing dynasty fell in 1912, the people of East Turkestan actually unsuccessfully tried to declare their independence, but became under the control of Chinese warlords that were supported in part by the Russians. And it wasn't until the 1930s that the people of East Turkestan were able to establish their independence in 1933 as the East Turkestan Republic. However, again, because of the Soviet intervention in 1934, along with uh, support Soviet intervention that supported the Chinese warlords, East Turkestan lost its independence in April 16th, 1934. However, a decade later, East Turkestan once again regained their independence as the East Turkestan Republic and maintained it until December 22nd, 1949, when the People's Republic of China forcibly overthrew the East Turkestan Republic and incorporated East Turkestan as the so-called Xinjiang region, which later became officially known as the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region in 1955.
And can you tell us about the so-called self-autonomy that's provided under the current Chinese constitution to have this position?
Yes, the Chinese, whether it was uh, the current PRC or even the ROC, initially the ROC was thinking about granting so-called uh, greater autonomy to the non-Chinese territories of East Turkestan, Tibet, and Mongolia that were, that they were seeking to occupy, that they didn't actually effectively occupy. But it was only after the Chinese communists under the PRC took over East Turkestan, Tibet, and Mongolia, southern Mongolia, that they rolled out this ethnic autonomy laws and creating so-called autonomous regions. Under this law, effectively the people, the occupied regions of East Turkestan, Tibet, Mongolia, and other regions would have the right to create their own laws, to govern themselves, to practice their religion, their culture, to have their own militia, all of these things. But in reality, none of this happened. The Chinese government so-called autonomy law is on paper only and has never been implemented. There has been no, autonomy.
You want the international community to recognize East Turkestan as illegally occupied territory, and you want it to have independence. Can you tell me, firstly, how many Uyghurs support this?
I would say the overwhelming majority of Uyghurs, over 90%, would support independence. This is very clear in the fact that if you look at the petitions that we had sent to the White House, there were two competing petitions in uh, September of 2018 that were sent to the White House. One was a petition calling on the US government to prevent the 21st century Holocaust in East Turkestan and recognize East Turkestan as an occupied country and supported its efforts to regain its independence. And another one was a petition calling on the US government to condemn China's human rights abuses in the so-called Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. Xinjiang petition only got 12,000 signatures from our global diaspora, whereas the East Turkestan petition, got over 109,000 signatures. The fact that majority of the people of East Turkestan want independence is one of the main reasons that the Chinese government is engaging in this mass internment and genocidal policies. This actually is evident in the uh, secret speeches made by Chinese Public Security Minister Zhao Kaiji and Chen Chuangguo in the leaked Xinjiang police files, in which they state that the majority of the people of East Turkestan have been, quote, infected by pro-independence thought that needs to be, quote, corrected. This is why the Chinese government has been ramping up its campaign to essentially eradicate East Turkestan and its people, to specifically prevent East Turkestan from regaining its independence.
And what sort of support have you been shown so far by the international community?
So far, the international community has not been too supportive, unfortunately, and this is because of China's intense political and economic pressure. Most countries across the world have economic and political relationships with China, and they are ultimately, caught in between this economic trap. And so China is leveraging its economic power to effectively buy the silence of many countries. While some countries like the United States and many European parliaments have officially recognized the ongoing genocide, there has been, no meaningful action taken to stop this ongoing genocide. Every year, you see governments across the world after the Holocaust repeating "never again, never again," and vowing that they will never again let an atrocity like a Holocaust occur. Yet they're remaining silent to the ongoing 21st century Holocaust like genocide of Uyghurs and other Turkic peoples in East Turkestan. We hope that governments will, change and recognize the fact that China is a threat not only to human rights of East Turkestan and its people and Tibet, but also to international stability and sovereignty. East Turkestan is the cornerstone of China's Belt and Road Initiative. East Turkestan is what's holding China right now momentarily from expanding further west into Central Asia, from expanding further south into South Asia, India, and from expanding further east into Taiwan and the Indo-Pacific. Once they finish off East Turkestan, then China will have the capability to invade Taiwan, to invade Central Asia, to invade South Asia. And the world needs to understand that those countries, if China is not stopped, will end up, if not immediately, in the coming decades, more or less like East Turkestan.